guys, we are on the last episode of Breaking the Ceiling. Yes, I know it happened all so fast, but I've loved every single guest that has been on my show, including this last person right here. I mean, she's like a Jamaican. She has like multitudes of jobs, but she has a lot of talent, and she's doing her thing in DC. She started her career in DC, and you know, home is home. You know, you got to stay there. You got to do your thing. And she's a woman in the game. Her name is Britt Waters. Welcome to the show.
Woo!
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm glad that you could be on. I know that you're very busy. And so the scheduling, we had to get together because I'm in Phoenix. You're in D.C. Just trying to figure all of that out. And sometimes we get a little confused with times, right? Like,
who knows? I don't even know what day it is.
Right. That's how long.
Don't ask me what time it is.
So what day? What time is it? Is it the same? We're like in Groundhog's Day, all over again the last year. Anyway, like I said, I'm glad that you could be on the show. I'm glad that you could be a part of this. We're highlighting Black Americans during Black History Month that are really doing dope ass shit. I hope you don't mind me cussing because that's the truth.
Girl, do your thing.
Okay, I'm doing my thing. I'm gonna do my thing. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into this. We're gonna ask first, you know, your journey into radio. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for even doing this. I could listen to so many people on the radio, but to hear the stories and have you sharing those stories with your platform, I appreciate it because I'm sure I'll learn plenty listening in. But I started in radio. I don't even remember. Like, I always wanted to do this my whole life. So I went to University of Maryland and attended the Philip Merrill College of Journalism there, graduated with my degree in broadcast journalism. I started with a little sports show with one of my best friends. And my first paid gig was PA announcing for our men's soccer team. And the Maryland men's soccer team is huge. So it was a really good platform for me. Out of that, I started interning for the Russ Parr Morning Show. And then after a little bit, I became full-time on there, producing and being on air. I had my own segment. So it was a lot to graduate college and end up on a nationally syndicated morning show. But they became my family, my mentors, my best friends. And it really formed and shaped my career. After that, you know, I grew up listening to everything from Boyz II Men, Mariah Carey, Little Kim, to Britney Spears and the Backstreet Boys. So I was dying to get into pop music. I started doing nights at 94.7 Fresh FM. It's a hot AC station. And after that station flipped after a few years, I took my talents to New York City and did weekends on New 102.7. It was an amazing experience. Another hot AC station. Shout out to my PD there, Jim Ryan. He really changed the course of my career when it comes to radio. Due to the pandemic, I stopped going to New York in March. So after that, I came back here, started back on air on WPGC 95.5 in DC. And this year, I launched my first show on Sirius XM. I'm hosting the Pandora Now, Channel 3's Thumb 20 Countdown. So it's a blend of everything I've done. It's every genre, and it's just what the people decide. So I'm so excited, and it's a testament to how much the world has changed that now I can finally be on a platform that's worldwide, and I'm recording it from my apartment. Right,
exactly. Well, congratulations on the show, first of all. I saw that announcement and I was like, wow, that is really, really dope. And one thing I really do want to ask, I want to backtrack just a little bit. You started doing sports before you even got into the Russ Parr show, to your gig with the pop station. And so what was the defining moment of you deciding to go, hey, I'm doing sports, but I really want to get into commercial radio? Talk about that some.
It was fun because I've done all aspects of sports, from play-by-play to color to PA to sports entertainment. So it's always been my passion. I'm a huge sports fan. I've always wanted to win championships, and I've never been the greatest athletic-wise. I'll admit to that. So I was doing sports full-time, and it kind of got monotonous a little bit. I always want to keep challenging myself and pushing myself. And felt like I was in a rut. I was asking the same questions, you know, how was the game? How is this injury? What's going on? Sports media wasn't exactly what it is today. So I was like, let me get into something else and challenge myself. And that's what I did with FM radio. Now I'm back full circle doing both, doing sports and radio. I'm still the host of the Washington Wizards and the Washington Mystics. So it gives me an opportunity to do both. And it's so fun.
And that's exciting. That's exciting to do. It's something I've always aspired to do myself, like do the in-game hosting and do radio. So before we go further, what's a day like at these games as you're being an in-game host? Like, kind of talk to us a little bit about that.
Oh, it's just as exciting as it looks, but it's a lot of work behind the scenes. I actually shot a vlog, my game day routine. It's on my YouTube page, so definitely check that out. I need to do a new one updated now that there's no fans, but it feels like you are such a part of the game. So you have to dedicate your day to it, just like the players do. Mm-hmm. You know, I can't go out and party the night before a game day or else my head's not going to be in the game. Right. So it's everything. It's having constant communication with my director, my co-host. What are we going to wear? What's the theme tonight? What are we going to talk about? How do you want to recap last time's game? What player are we going to connect with today? You know, what content can we pre-produce for the game? Everything is a decision that's made prior. People are like, hey, you want to hang out before the game? I'm like, we're at the arena 3.5 to 4 hours before game time. So it's definitely a huge commitment, but it's something I look forward to every single game. And being on both sides of the spectrum, you know, the Washington Mystics or WNBA championships, I've hosted 2 rounds of finals with them. So to see those fans so into it, so like sold out games, right, the best team in the league, to then hosting for teams like the Washington Valor. I did that for years, the arena football team, and the Washington Wizards right now. You know, we're going through a bit of a transition, not winning as much as we would like. So it's different how to cater to it. I always try to connect with at least one person in the arena and make sure I touch on that. Before quarantine, I would walk around and talk to people, and in my head, I'd make a promo that specifically fits them. So now that everyone's at home, it's a little bit of a difference, but to find fun within the game and to keep people engaged in between timeouts, whether we're winning or losing, and just bring everyone together, it's such a great feeling.
I love it. And so you do talk a little bit about how different it is now that you guys can't have fans in the arena. You know, how different is your energy, and do you have to give 3 times more, or you know, you kind of doing the same thing? Like, let's discuss that too, because obviously radio and entertainment period and sports was affected heavily by COVID last year, and even now as the seasons are, you know, on a different schedule.
So I felt like, and I'm so blessed that I had a little bit of an advantage. When I first came into in-game hosting, I was like, oh, I got this. I've been broadcasting for years. But I was like, you know, when you do radio, you're technically in a studio talking to yourself. And when you do television, you might be talking about 10 people and a camera. I was very used to that. So when I got in front of 25,000 people, I was like, what is going on? This is a lot. So for me, with no fans in it, I feel at home because I grew up in radio, and it feels like I'm in the studio connecting to that one person. I mean, we have a live chat function, so we have fans that are talking to us throughout the game. So we have people joining us virtually. So there are interactions there. But for me, it took me right back to my radio roots. Like, how can we keep people engaged when we can't see them and we can't hear them? Mm-hmm. To me, that's what radio is. So it was comfortable. You know, you can't tell people to get on their feet and make some noise, but you can tell them to get in game mode, to get excited, to pay attention, to listen, to stand up, you know, those different ways of speech.
I love it. I love the joy of it. I haven't watched any games. I just seen little stuff here and there, and you know, it definitely is a different feel when you're thinking about sports or anything with entertainment. Obviously, you know, with all this coming along and your career is really coming full circle, we go back some, and you think to yourself, when you decided to go to school for broadcasting, who were some of the influences that kind of marked your life, and why did they mark your life into being a broadcaster yourself?
So I think when I was like 5 or 6, I wanted to be the weather girl so bad. I forget who our local weather station was. It was the Philly station. And I always told my mom that's who I wanted to be. And then I grew up and I realized those women are actual meteorologists. And I did not want to be a scientist. So I was like, what do I like about this position? And I just loved sharing stories, giving information, being on television. It was the broadcasting side. So I would just watch whatever my mom was watching, whether it was Montel Williams or Oprah or things like that. But growing through the industry, I've really gotten close to and mentored by people that I've worked with or worked in the same building as, like, you know, Courtney Hicks, Georgia Alfredis, and people I watched on TV like Tamron Hall. Just strong Black women who I feel like really never had to ever challenge their morals or do anything that I wouldn't do to get to the positions that they're in. Women that I've seen go through hardships and come out on the other side of it on top, like just looking up to them, who broke barriers. You know, I hadn't listened to a woman morning show until I aspired to be Dee Dee McGuire. So just seeing them crash those glass ceilings, as your show is called, it inspired me and it wanted me to do the same thing. And any space that I didn't see someone or didn't see enough people that look like me, I challenged myself to be in those roles.
Wow. Well, shout out to Courtney Hicks and Dee Dee McGuire. Courtney Hicks will be featured later on, or earlier this month. She's already been featured. And also I had Dee Dee McGuire on my podcast, Girl Talk with J.Belle. And they're both, as you say, they
love them.
Are breaking the ceiling, really doing dope things. And Dee Dee McGuire is definitely a character. I love her to death. She's an awesome woman. So I love inspirations like those. And earlier you talked about your internship with Russ Parr Morning Show and how you ended up kind of, you know, maneuvering that into a full-time gig and having your own segment. I want to ask you, what lessons did you learn from that experience, being a part of that show, being it as it was really like your first full-time gig into commercial radio?
I learned everything. And I don't even mean like radio stuff, just like life stuff. Mm-hmm. And mostly just working with a team. I came onto a show that had been formed for years, and they were truly a family. And we lived what we did on air. So when we got on air, it was just like we were talking and hanging out, because those are the things we would say in the group chat. Mm-hmm. Those are what we would say during the commercial breaks. I remember I was trying so hard to impress Russ. And then we just started talking off air. And then he was just like, you know what? You're such a different person on and off. And that's what you cannot be. You have to be who you are, be yourself. I was trying so hard to be Alfredis. I was trying so hard to be Angie. I was like, wow. He was just like, just be yourself. And that will be what makes you stand out. And at the time, you know, I have this Jersey accent. I have braces that I'm trying to talk over, rubber bands in my mouth. And it was those things that made me unique and made people connect with me. So I think that was the best advice that Russ could ever give me. And I've stuck with it and made a whole career out of it.
Wow. And it took you over to, you said Fresh, I think it's 94.7. Is that the name of the station in DC after that?
Yes.
And, you know, obviously you were probably one of the only Black women in that building or on that station. What was that experience like? Like, how did you take that and really make people see past your color and only see your talent and what you bring to the audience?
Well, thank you so much. I always saw it as, I know, like hot AC stations and pop stations, even top 40 stations, a lot of people see those demographics as young white kids. But I grew up listening to Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. I'm currently a fan of Taylor Swift and Maroon 5, even when I listen to, you know, Yella Beezy on the weekend. So it's just, I felt like there were so many more people that looked like me that were listening to these stations who needed someone to speak on their behalf. And it was really my PD at the time, Steve Davis, who was just like, you're the perfect fit, and just live that and be comfortable with it. Before social media was where it is now, I think a lot of people listened to radio hosts and didn't know what they look like, and it didn't matter then. And when I first got there, it was a really weird time. It was an election year that I was on the air. I was actually on air working 7 to midnight when the world realized that, you know, Donald Trump was going to be our next president, and all the happenings of that year. So, you know, I'm on a majority white station talking about these things. And I remember I mentioned something about the Colin Kaepernick protest, and someone called in, and it was very obvious that he had no idea that I was a Black woman and was speaking in ways that he had no clue. And I was like, if I can be a voice that people don't even necessarily know what I look like, and speak to those people and have those conversations. And it was for the first time that, like, I took a moment. I was off the air at this point, and I just kept talking to the listener, and we talked through and had all these powerful conversations with a stranger. And I was like, how many of these people am I reaching? And how many people are learning different things, and I'm learning things from them. So it was a really good opportunity. The Intercom family, we had like 5 different radio stations in that building. Right. So there was definitely color all over the place, but it felt good to know that I could bounce back and forth from hip hop and pop, and just doing that makes me just feel so much more well-rounded.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, being able to bounce back and forth, because after you left Fresh, you definitely were working between DC and New York every weekend. How was that experience? Like, how were you able to keep your mental together? Because, over time, that type of traveling takes a toll on you.
Oh, girl, it was an experience.
Talk about it.
So yes, I was on air at WPGC, and I was hosting for the Washington Wizards. And then I would host the Wizards game. I would get out at like 10, 11 o'clock, take a nap, eat, and I would get on the train at 4 a.m. to make sure I made it to New York on air to do middays at like 10 to 2. But when New York calls, you don't say no.
Right.
It's interesting because I went out there to interview for a full-time position in New York. So I'm thinking I'm going to move to New York. I have this great thing. And I didn't get the job. But the PD loved me and wanted to give me an opportunity. And he was just like, if you find yourself like back in Jersey, because I'm from Jersey, and you want to do weekends, I'm like, done. I'm doing it. But then I was like, I still live in DC. So it was definitely a process. And it was a time where I just had to really focus in on work and really lean on my faith to get me through it, and know my eye was on the prize, and not even going on air tired, or just make sure I know what's happening in both markets. So I can be specific with local stations. So when you're on like a nationally syndicated show, you can talk about those national headlines. But when you're on local stations, you want to be live. You want to talk about DC. You want to talk about New York. So just being fully abreast of that. And I had to put my personal life on hold, but I think it was the best decision I've made.
Wow. Yeah, because now you have your show at Sirius XM. You're still with WPGC. And like I said, you got a multitude of jobs. I'm not even going to run them all down. You are busy. I want to ask you next, like, the biggest moment so far in your radio journey.
Oh, it's hard to say. It depends on how you measure biggest.
Well, just like something that really has stuck out to you, or just really is like, damn, I'm here. Like, I'm almost there, or, that sort of thing.
I think it's more so of the progression and things over time. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time I interviewed an artist, and then I had to interview them again like 4 years later, and they remembered me. And I was like, what? Like, that's crazy. It was crazy to me because I had seen their career progress, and they had also seen my career progress. So I think that was huge. Being on air in New York was huge. Everything is like, I'm so starstruck when I crack the mic every day. And I think it's so awesome. I mean, being in a market like DC, you're like, wow, is Barack and Michelle listening? Are they sitting courtside at tonight's game? And the same thing translates to my sports career. A lot of the Washington Mystics, when I joined, were from University of Maryland. So I had done their play-by-play when they were in college. We were in college. I had interviewed them post-game. And then we went and won a championship together. And we got rings together. It's crazy to see athletes and artists grow and have them recognize what you're doing as well, and sharing those huge moments with them and the world that really stand out to me and make me so thankful.
Wow. The story about the women's basketball team and you like all coming together, it's like full circle for real. To see all those journeys come together, it's really, really dope and really, really awesome. Now, like I said earlier, you're like a Jamaican. You have a multitude of jobs. As a running joke right now. How do you balance it all, with doing that and, trying to have somewhat of a personal life beyond your jobs? It's
hard, especially with quarantine, because you can't escape. home studios. I'm looking at your home studio. Like even when we're at home, we're at work. So it's definitely hard to balance, but I find joy in what I do. So it makes it a lot easier. There's definitely times when you work 12-hour days like me that you do have to, the hardest part for me is turning down things that I genuinely want to do. There are certain things that I want to do, but I know I have to schedule in time for myself. You know, once, like every other month, I'll get a hotel room and have like a workcation and just do the work that I want to do. Or I'll schedule time. And whether it's me researching something for work or whether it's me watching The Real Housewives, it's me time. So, you know, I can't be on everyone's podcast all the time, or I can't travel to every, you know, events, or I can't do a lot because I do have to make sure I have time for myself. And I hope that everyone does that for themselves too, because I've looked up to so many women who didn't take time for themselves and it was in their detriment. So I hope that people know that it's okay, especially in this industry. You can't have a stank attitude and get on the radio. You can't be tired and tell people to get hyped for a game and you half sleep yourself. Like, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't work. You have to kind of like, I wouldn't say have a Wendy Williams mentality, because we all saw her story and what she went through, but you kind of have to have that mentality a little bit to get your hustle on and make sure that people understand that you about your business. Hearing your story, it really is like, wow, because you never know what somebody's going through. I know for myself, like I'm still looking for that full-time gig. And so producing stuff like this, I feel like will help me towards that. And so when I was looking at your reel and I seen all of the work that you've done, I was like, damn, I need to get my hustle on. Let me go ahead and add on about another 5
You are definitely hustling.
I appreciate that. And speaking of social media, because, you know, so often we put ourselves out there over and over again, and people think that this is the life that we live at all times. Do you feel like your social media helps with your branding a lot more now versus, you know, excuse me, we didn't have social media, you know, when y'all probably started in radio. It wasn't as big. Twitter was big. Facebook was for college students. Now you have Instagram, TikTok, and people still use Facebook like that. And then Instagram is a big one. Do you feel like having those platforms helps your brand a lot more?
But there's pros and cons to social. I think social media has made it a lot harder when it comes to, like, you know, finding that full-time gig, finding that sweet spot. You know, unfortunately, some people hire off of followers, or there's so many voices out there, because anybody can be a radio host now. You crack open your phone, record a voice memo, throw it on the internet. Now you're a radio host. So it makes it more important to be accurate, to be open, to be seasoned, to be experienced, to know what you're talking about and deliver it the right way. But social media has helped me so much. You know, you can't just share the great things. People use it as a highlight reel, but you have to be honest. I remember I was having one of the worst times when I first went to New York. I was sleepy. I was lost. My suitcase fell in a puddle. Like, I went the wrong way on the subway, and I was just like freaking out. And I posted about it, and so many people just like reached out and helped me out. And I've had PDs that have said they found me on Instagram and saw some clips I had posted and wanted to listen to my air check. Or people I'd be like, oh, you're in New York this weekend? I just saw it on your Instagram. Hey, do you want to host this event? Like, it's a great place to be honest and to be seen. I've had people reach out and be like, hey, it seems like you're working a lot. We have a full-time gig here. Do you want to try this? So I would definitely utilize social media as much as you can. For me, one thing that stood out, I was like, I don't have the time to take on another job, but I am a huge wrestling fan, and I wanted to use what I'm good at, broadcasting, to connect with other wrestling fans and this whole community. So I started an IGTV series and started going live, started doing pre-recorded stuff, and racked up thousands of views and connected with people all over the country, including professional wrestlers, just through my Instagram page. And I was like, wow, if this can happen, your options are limitless. So to anyone that wants to do anything, start doing it yourself on social, and the opportunities will come.
Left off with saying, I'm glad that you said that, though, because a lot of radio personalities are still scared to learn new things and really like dive into understanding how digital works, how social media works more in your favor than against you.
But that allows people to explore new positions as well. If you're a seasoned radio jock and you're not into it, hire someone fresh out of college who is really into it and can take it over for you. Right. I always say, don't take on something that you're not excited about, but recognize that it's a necessity and get someone to handle it for you.
Yes, I love that. I love that idea too, because I had a lot of people like, well, you do my social media. I'm like, no, hire a college intern because you don't want to pay me what I need to be paid. So let me talk about, I want to talk a little bit about how much radio has changed for you. Obviously, you said last year you were with your station in New York and you had to stop going because of the pandemic. How much has it changed for you, and how have you been able to adapt and adjust to that change?
It's changed a lot for me. You know, I went from everyday radio and I thought that was the only outlet for me. Mm-hmm. And I realized, you know, how much other opportunities are out there and exploring new things. Working with the NBA, I got selected to be one of the hosts at NBA All-Star. And it was like, wow, like this platform is something I want to explore. So I'm so glad that radio was so dynamic that I can take on these other jobs and still work at radio in a different capacity, like my current SiriusXM Pandora Now show. So I can still do everything and still be, you know, worldwide while having time to do other things. So my journey has changed a lot, but I think it's growing and adapting with me. And I really like that.
I want to just say your media speaking is on point. Like how you give your answers, they're clear and concise and to the point. And I love that so much because someone like me, I try to get to the point, but I talk a little bit in circles. So I'm still a work in progress. But I love how you just like you get straight to the point. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I can be rambling rabbit at times. Trust me.
Well, right now
I've been reined in.
And that comes with training. That comes with time. And so I get that and I understand that. But I love it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not used to it sometimes. So I'm like, dang, how much longer? She almost done? Let me figure out how to say this. And so then
your job is the hard job. People will go on and start telling you what they made for breakfast. Like that was not the question. Just come on back.
Let me reel it on.
Especially dealing with artists sometimes. I'm like, are you tired? Are you high? Are you nervous? Because I don't know what you're even saying. I've done interviews and I'll be like, so tell me about the album. And they're telling me why they think the earth is flat. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute.
That's real life though. I've seen it myself and I'll be like, wait, that wasn't even nothing I was talking about or what that person was talking about. But okay, they had a little weed in the car, you know, it's something like that. So let me ask you this. I know we talked about most memorable moments in your career earlier or like, you know, biggest moment for you. What was one of the worst moments in your career and how did you bounce back?
Ooh, you know, radio is like, it's something that you really love, but it gives you tough love. I remember all the jobs I didn't get. I remember them very, very vividly. I remember when my station flipped at Fresh FM, they were like, yeah, we're gonna flip formats. We're letting go of the entire staff. And it's learning through those things and having to bounce back. Or, you know, when Russ went and took over and moved to Magic from KYS and I had to leave that show, I was just like, wow. So radio is ever changing. And I feel like as radio host, you have to walk in every show and treat it like it's your last because it could be. Because we don't know what's going to happen the next day. You can literally walk into your radio station and be like, it's another station. And now your station does not exist anymore. And all the memories and things that you have made connected with that, you have to let go. And it feels like you lost a friend. So when formats flip, it's really a scary and troubling time. So I think those things have made me cherish and appreciate just how blessed every opportunity that you crack that mic is.
Wow. Well, Brittany, I don't have any. Well, I do have one last question for you.
Okay.
Really, it's going to be like in one sentence, words of wisdom for young women and men who aspire to be radio personalities or do the multitudes of jobs at one time that you're doing right now. I just got to say, like, I'm excited to see a black woman, a young black woman doing these things that a lot of us wish we can do. And
thank you. You're making me blush. Oh, Lord.
You're welcome. I really have to say that because I am, I'm 35 years old. You're probably close to me in age. And my life took a different journey, a different turn. You know, I started late. I started this journey at 25 because I didn't know what I wanted to do or really dive into radio until I was 25. And it's taken a lot of twists and turns to even get to the point where I am right now, where people actually do see me and they see that I'm doing things, but it's still not an out loud kind of love, where it's getting me the jobs that I would like to get full-time or part-time and things like that. And so when I see someone like you of your caliber and you're really out here working it and getting these opportunities and taking them and running with them and not being ungrateful about them, as a lot of people do, you have to show love where it belongs. And I definitely feel that way about you. I see your personality. I see, you know, your wrestling videos like you were talking about earlier, when you're doing your in-game hosting, doing all these different things. You know, you're traveling, you're doing your thing. And I really do love that. And to be honest with you, I'd rather wait to get married so I can do those things. Because, you know, you want to experience your life and doing your career first before you even settle down. And, you know.
Yeah.
But, like, in one sentence, words of wisdom for young Black women and men who want to get into radio.
I would just say that any seat that you want to sit in, it can be your seat. It doesn't matter if you are 12 years old or if you are 65 years old. There is a format for every. Just create it and stick with it and do your thing. And I'm sure it'll work out. And make sure your dreams aren't so static. Like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Let God kind of mold, create the opportunities, and let him tell you where you're going to be. Let him develop what you're best at and follow that. Follow your passions. And I think that's the best advice I can put out there. I think so many people I run into are like, I'm going to do nights on this radio station and that's the job I'm going to have. And I'm like, that station could be gone tomorrow. Or maybe you were meant to be the face of this other station, or maybe you were meant to break down a different barrier, or maybe the people in this city really want to hear from you. Adapt your dreams to be ever changing, and you'll find there are no limits.
Wow. So let go and let God is what you're saying. I can feel it. I can understand it. All right, Britt, let us know, when does your show on Sirius XM air? For those of us that might, I don't have it. I wish I can listen to it. I can probably listen to it online. But I don't have it in my car. So those that do have it, let them know when it airs.
So on Sirius XM, channel 3, the Pandora Now channel, and also on your Sirius XM app on any of your mobile devices. My show premieres on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. It re-airs on Wednesdays at noon. But after that, you can always just type it in, Pandora Thumb 20 Countdown, and binge it whenever you want. It's all genres, and it's the songs, the new releases that people pick. So whatever y'all like, you get to pick. It's not on me. So I love it. I hope you guys tune in, and you can see everything else I'm doing through my social media at It's Britt Waters at BrittWaters.com, and see all the fun, whether it's wrestling, sports, radio, luxury cars, all of that.
Oh yeah, I didn't touch on that. The fact that you do stuff for the luxury cars out there, Mercedes, Aston Martin. I seen the video. I was like, oh my God, she riding in these cars. I was like, I want to ride.
Yeah, I don't own those. I actually drive a Fiat, so let's just put that out there. I don't own any Bentleys.
Manifesting, though. We're manifesting. That's what's coming next. When you're in it.
Sure.
You say, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, you never know. You never know. We're just going to keep it. We're going to keep it at that. Guys, make sure you're listening to Britt Waters. Follow her on Instagram, as she said, her social media. As we close out this series, I want to thank everyone for tuning in and being a part of this and supporting this from the beginning. I'm hoping to continue this on twice a month after this. We'll see what happens. Maybe the radio fam will love it so much they want to continue this with me. And I'm hoping down the line we can do some merch with this. Would you be down to sport some merch for me, Britt? You know, you already.
I live in merch. What?
I see. You got the Wizards on.
Yeah.
No, you got the Wizards on. She's supporting everybody. You know, I love it. I love it.
I gotta hook you up with my merch when it drops.
Hey. We'll talk. Until next time, guys. Make sure you check out my my podcast, Girl Talk with J.Belle. That season 4 is dropping next month. And I got so much more coming soon. Let's cross our fingers and praise. We're manifesting things. 2021, we're manifesting things. Again, thank you to the radio fam and Vicky Rowe for being a part of this. See you later.